All right, so Barney and I are in Bishkek today, and we're just having a look around this morning. A couple of facts about Kyrgyzstan. First is that flag up there. It's red, and when you see it blowing, it's got like a sun and a yellow thing in the middle. That red is from the guy Manus, who is that guy who I'll tell you about in a second. And that was his sort of symbol. And the flag in the middle, interesting, is the sun representing hope. And then if you look up, you can't see, oh, there you go, like a few little scar things. And that's if you're in their traditional yurt, which is their round hut, and you're looking up from the center, that's what it looks like where the smoke goes out. So that's the sort of why they've got that in the middle. Now Manus was basically he's the guy from Kyrgyzstan, and 1,000 years ago, now there's a poem written about this guy. He came through, liberated this whole area, and made this sort of empire, the very sort of nationalistic around him. There's quite a few statues of this dude, and he brought in the language. Now that is the language Kyrgyz. It's got Z's and Y's and R's. I probably pronounced that completely wrong. Now, this language is spoken by, there's about 7 million people in this country. About 4 and a bit million speak it as their natural language, first language. The rest probably speak Russian, is either first or second. Ukrainian is also big. It's a hugely poor country, this. Probably 1 in 5 or over 1 in 5 people live under the poverty line, global poverty line. It's one of the poorest ex-Soviet nations. Has a lot of gold, a lot of minerals that are trying to come out, but it lost about nearly 100% of all of its exports went across to Russia. And then when the collapse of the whole Soviet Union, it never really came back. The traditional Kyrgyzstani people who speak Kyrgyz, they speak out in the nomadic, they're out in the fields. There's not a lot of money for agriculture, although there is a lot of agriculture, so they use a lot of horses, and that's what we've just been seeing, old plowed fields with humans, not machines. Most of the religion is Islamic here, 90% Islamic, but they're Sunni Islam, so they're not Shias. There we go, look at that flag, isn't that beautiful? So they're Sunnis, not Shias. So, and also the government is has made big policies to be really inclusive on religions across the country. So you're not allowed to teach religion at schools. It's got to come outside. So they're more of a sort of passive Islamic culture, this, rather than active, although the active nature is coming with more mosques that we've seen it being built around the place. And that was a quick whistle-top tour. What else? Oh yeah, like 30%, 1 in 3. This is interesting for Australia, where we are a dying country, where we produce fewer than 2 children per couple, probably 1 point something. So we're dying, but these places, the average, like 1 in 3, or more than 1 in 3, 30-40% of the entire population here is under the age of 15. Most people have like big families still. So these countries, as we get older and our kids get older, these are the countries that are going to have the big employment forces. And so Russia has started to really bring in a lot of language systems, language schools in here, a bit like we saw in Tajikistan, where export of labor into those cheaper jobs. They want to make sure people speak Russian here. They've brought schools in, and a lot of the Kyrgyzstan people, they actually changed their surnames to more Russian-sounding surnames so that they can get jobs in Russia and come through into the Russia system. So the whole world dynamic is going to change, and these are some of those powerhouses of employment areas that most of us in Australia don't even think about. But when we're dying, we're going to need people to actually do all of the labor, and we're going to, it's going to come out of countries like this. So this is why these are hugely important. Barney and I have been surprised at how good everybody's English is, considering it's not even a first, second, or third major language. A lot of people speak English. Very few Westerners come here for tourism at all. It's a very small. So to speak English is also shows you the power and how much importance they put into education and about the future generation. So stand by, world. We could have this Central Asia stuff really becoming the powerhouse for a lot of our jobs later on. Let's see what happens. And one of the things I love about these ex-Soviet countries is these huge, just great architecture, great statues. I mean, look at this. We get nothing like that in Australia. This just big and heavy and solid, just different. I like it. I'll see if I can take some video of a few. I just love this Russian or Soviet architecture. Actually, it's probably Russian. These big buildings which just defy all the sort of symmetry and the normality that we get in Australia. Here they've got this, this big building, big columns that then spew outwards in the wrong direction at the top of that one. This one here, which is very, I just turned it off. This one over here, which is very kind of Islamic in the sense that it's got squares that go in and in and in. We don't see that back home. These Soviets, they really knew how to build. amazing structures while they're here. And look at these parks, incredible.
When you're screwed, I'm also screwed.
Now, Barnes and I are just walking through another natural history museum. This is really good, and it's incredible, as I said before. You know, with so many, put my thing on that, with so many young kids here, like 1 in 3 people under the age of 15, this government's poor, but it's invested in education, science, technology, languages, those things. This is an incredible museum, way better than anything, as Marty said quite rightly before, that you get in Australia on all the history here. But what's interesting is when we go to all these countries and we're putting them in dates, so we talk about the Iron Age, Bronze Age. Now the Iron Age is around, I don't know, just for BC, 0 BC, 500 before Christ. So only 2,000 years ago. Bronze Age, only 3,000 years, and before that it was the Stone Age. When we put that in perspective, a lot of the petroglyphs that we see in Australia are way older than 3,000 to 5,000 years. So that means they're Stone Age petroglyphs. The paintings that we're showing, you know, as I went around Australia, the Aboriginal art, they'd be classified as Stone Age. We don't talk about that in Australia, but it's interesting when you see here, and this huge culture. I talked about Manus that came through, but this big culture of the Silk Road, the trading, everything else happening here. And you're right, I do get very excited by all of this. Look. This is really interesting. So all the signs, they've got Kyrgyz, Russian and English, even though English is a really small percentage of spoken language. All of this museum, even if it's got local language Kyrgyz and also English, they're really pushing English. We wouldn't have this again in Australia, having so many signs in, say, Japanese or Chinese or Russian or different trading countries. It's just everywhere. These oil lamps, vases. I find that good. Multi-languages. Rocks. Left. All right, so we're just at the Kazakhstan border, and there's a big queue behind, you can see, and it's, hey guys, and that's where we're selling fruit. That's where we're going, down here. A little bit of tension as everybody's pushing their way in. Hopefully the queue to walk across the border isn't as long as the queue to drive across the border. We've turned up to the ski resort and we booked tree houses, not knowing what to expect, but it's incredible. There's lights everywhere, night skiing, and above us are the tree houses.